Once upon a time, in a village nestled beside a whispering forest, lived two brothers, Thomas and Finn. Thomas, the elder, was sturdy and practical, his hands calloused from working the fields. Finn, the younger, was slight and dreamy, his head often in the clouds, filled with tales of magic and mystery. Their village bordered a graveyard, ancient and overgrown, where twisted tombstones leaned like drunken sailors and ivy clung to crumbling mausoleums. The villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, especially after dusk, for they said that within its mossy walls resided the witch of the graveyard. They described her with shivers, a creature of bone and shadow with eyes like chips of ice and a voice that scraped like rust on stone. She was said to steal lost things, forgotten memories, and sometimes the very breath from those who dared to wander too close after dark. One crisp autumn evening, a valuable heirloom, a silver locket passed down through generations, went missing from the brothers' home. Thomas, ever the pragmatist, scoured the house, the barn, every corner of their small farm. But Finn, his mind buzzing with the village whispers, felt a prickle of dread. "It's the witch," he whispered to Thomas, his voice trembling slightly. "She's taken it." Thomas scoffed. "Nonsense, Finn. It must have simply been misplaced." But Finn was insistent. He remembered the locket sitting on the windowsill near the edge of the property that bordered the graveyard. He felt a pull, a certainty that the missing locket wasn't simply lost, it had been taken. Thomas, though skeptical, saw the genuine fear in his brother's eyes. He knew Finn's imagination ran wild, but he also knew his brother's heart was true. And besides, he couldn't shake the unease that lingered around the old graveyard himself. So, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in bruised purples and oranges, the two brothers, armed with only a flickering lantern and Thomas's sturdy pitchfork, set out towards the graveyard gates. The air inside the graveyard was thick and cold, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The wind sighed through the gnarled branches of ancient trees, sounding like mournful whispers. Shadows danced and stretched, playing tricks on their eyes. They crept deeper into the graveyard, their footsteps muffled by the fallen leaves. Every creak of a branch, every rustle in the undergrowth sent a jolt through them. Thomas kept his grip tight on the pitchfork, his practical mind battling against the growing sense of dread. Finn, meanwhile, scanned the tombstones, his heart pounding like a drum against his ribs. They reached the oldest part of the graveyard, where the markers were worn and illegible. And there, perched atop a crumbling mausoleum, was a figure. It was tall and gaunt, draped in tattered dark cloth. Its face was obscured by a deep hood, but 2 points of light gleamed within, unnervingly bright. A low, raspy sound emanated from the figure, like dry leaves skittering across stone. It was the witch of the graveyard. Thomas raised his pitchfork, his face grim. "We've come for what you took," he called out, his voice surprisingly steady. The figure tilted its head, and the rasping sound intensified, a chilling, humorless chuckle. A skeletal hand, long and bony, emerged from beneath the cloak, holding something small and silver. It was the locket. "You seek the lost," the witch rasped, her voice like the grinding of stones. "The forgotten. This trinket holds memories, yes, a link to those who are gone." Finn stepped forward, his fear momentarily forgotten in the face of the locket. "It belongs to our family," he said, his voice small but firm. The witch's head tilted further. "Everything here belongs to me eventually," she said. "The dust of the past, the echoes of lives lived. What do you offer in return for this small piece of what was?" Thomas, ever the pragmatist, considered. He had no gold, no jewels to offer. But Finn, his mind filled with stories, spoke before Thomas could. We can offer you a story," Finn stammered. "A new story. One you haven't heard before." Thomas looked at his brother in disbelief. A story? To a creature of the graveyard? But the witch was silent for a long moment. The points of light in her hood seemed to flicker with a strange interest. "A story," she rasped. "Tell me, Let me see if your words can chase away the silence of centuries." And so, standing before the terrifying witch of the graveyard, Finn began to tell a story. He spoke of a vibrant village, of laughter and joy, of the warmth of the sun on their faces, of the simple pleasures of life that the graveyard, with its stillness and decay, seemed to lack. He wove a tale of a mischievous squirrel and a grumpy badger, of a hidden waterfall and a field of wildflowers that bloomed in the spring. As Finn spoke, a strange thing happened. The rasping sound from the witch softened, becoming less like a threat and more like a dry sigh. The points of light in her hood seemed to dim slightly, as if listening intently. When Finn finished, the silence that followed was different. It wasn't the heavy, oppressive silence of the graveyard, but a quiet, expectant pause. The witch held out the locket. "Your story. It had life in it," she said, her voice still raspy, but with a hint of something almost wistful. "A fleeting warmth in a place of cold. Take your trinket, and remember that even in darkness, there are echoes of light." Thomas, still bewildered, took the locket from the witch's bony hand. It was cold to the touch, but undeniably real. Without another word, the witch of the graveyard faded back into the shadows, becoming one with the darkness and the leaning tombstones. The brothers stumbled out of the graveyard as the first hint of dawn painted the sky. They clutched the locket, their hearts still racing, but with a different kind of fear now, one mingled with awe. They never spoke of their encounter with the witch to the villagers. Who would believe them? But they knew. They knew that the stories of the witch were not entirely false. She was a creature of the graveyard, yes, but perhaps she wasn't just a taker. Perhaps, in her own strange way, she was also a keeper of memories, of forgotten things, and maybe, just maybe, of a longing for the warmth of life. And from that day on, Finn, the dreamy brother, understood the power of stories even more. He knew that words, like a flickering lamp in the darkness, could reach into the deepest shadows and offer a glimpse of something beautiful, something that even a witch of the graveyard might yearn for. And Thomas, the practical brother, learned that sometimes the things you couldn't see, the things that existed only in whispers and tales, could be just as real and just as powerful as anything you could touch with your own two hands. And that, my friends, is the story of the two brothers and the witch of the graveyard. A reminder that even in the darkest of places, a little bit of light and a well-told story can make all the difference.